Welcome to our online training to discuss what being on an executive board means and how officers of student organizations can make sure their board is effective and impactful. The term exec board might be different for each organization. For some, it's all of their officers, especially smaller and newer organizations. If a group gets large, sometimes they might have 20-something officers. In this case, the executive board is likely a smaller group that exists to oversee this massive structure. Regardless, what we're going to talk about here will help this group at the top make sure that they're taking the organization in the right direction. We're going to cover things that we think are immensely important for exec boards to understand, yet are likely being underemphasized. The first of these things is the organization's constitution. If you're an officer in a student org, you should have seen your constitution and understand what it means. If you don't know what it says, this opens you up to a lot of potential problems. The constitution for each organization outlines your purpose and direction, as well as your structure and how to complete different processes. By different processes, we mean things like elections and things like impeachment. If an officer in a club is doing a horrible job, how do you remove them? This is usually something that requires either an entire organization to vote or at least the entire exec board to vote. You can't just remove someone without cause, which groups tend to do. So say you ask an officer to never show up again. They're going to come to our office, and that's where you might end up in a tricky spot, because your official process likely includes a way for them to defend themselves, a possible appeal, and the way to vote this officer out. If you didn't do things this way, your decision isn't valid. Same thing with elections. If your constitution outlines that every member of the club can run for office and every member votes, yet you decided just to pick your predecessor, that decision isn't valid. You want to read and understand your constitution so that every process like this is done right and we can back you up. Let's say that you read the constitution and it's not at all how you're currently functioning. You can amend your constitution by referring to the amendments section, which usually outlines a way to vote these changes in. So if you're going to change your name, change a process, add or remove dues, or anything else that falls in your constitution, you'd have to follow those rules to get it done. So we'd recommend each officer read the constitution and then maybe have a discussion as a board about what's in it, so everyone is on the same page and there's no surprises. Now in this document, you likely have a purpose or a mission outlined. This is something that as an exec board, you should be revisiting often. It should be driving your events and activities. If your vision is to bring employers to campus and give students practice interviewing, focus on that. Use your vision to help brainstorm new types of activities that fall in that zone. Once you have a set vision that everyone shares, it's also the exec board's job to set goals and a plan for the year, or maybe even multiple years. This is maybe the president's job to facilitate these conversations, but you can play a part in coming up with these goals and setting that direction. If you're the treasurer, you might speak up about goals to access more grant funding on campus, or how you finally want to open that off-campus bank account. The vice president might contribute by discussing what committees they think the group should start. As a group, you come up with a plan for the year. You can try doing multiple years, hoping that future exec boards will care about the same sorts of things. If you've never set goals, we have another video about how to set what are called SMART goals, and that should help you get the conversation started at least. So now, you've prepared yourself by reading and understanding the Constitution and how to get things done. Your team is all on the same page, you've got some comprehensive goals and plans for the future. But with one common mistake, all of this can mean nothing. So let's talk about transition. You're going to hear the term officer transition in a lot of our training videos because it's vital. This is how you train and prepare the officers that will eventually replace you. Some officers just leave, with the incoming officer trying to figure everything out from scratch. This means every year you essentially start over. You don't know how funding works, you don't know what events were successful last year, you don't have any history. So you want to start thinking about your plan now. We've got specialized training workshops for most common positions that either you can attend in person or watch the video trainings. We've also got a template for a transition manual so that each officer can learn about their position and edit with their feedback and history, so that every year your new officers get this document and feel like they're not starting from scratch. We recommend you do elections early, maybe in winter quarter, so that you can spend spring preparing the new officers by having them shadow the current officers and asking questions. The new officers can even start doing some of the job, while the outgoing officer is still around to help them. Doing elections in late spring can be a major downfall for a lot of clubs. So focus on creating a plan to train your new officers and have intentional one-on-one time with incoming and outgoing. Utilize the transition manual templates and encourage people to attend the trainings that we've created. This will help make sure that your good work this year can be built upon next year. Now, this is all the positive stuff, how to be totally prepared, but things aren't always positive. So we need to address the issue of setting expectations and holding each other accountable. It should be very clear from the beginning what each officer is expected to do. It shouldn't be a mystery. Sometimes we assume people know these expectations, but it's best to get them out in the open and even write them down. Do you expect every officer to attend every general meeting? What happens if they don't? By setting expectations, you can then segue into consequences. If you have a conversation at the beginning of the year and you all agree on XYZ, it makes it easier to hold people accountable when they don't do those things. And that's when you go to the Constitution and start the process for impeaching officers that aren't holding up their part of the deal. It's not personal, it's very clear that they're failing to meet the expectations. This isn't easy, especially if you like the other person, but it's an important part of keeping your club afloat. By allowing officers to not do their jobs, your whole group will suffer. So it's best to hold them accountable or replace them the proper way with someone who has the time and energy to make the club excellent again. Now, where do we go from here? Like I mentioned, we have specific trainings for at least 6 common officer positions. So I'd follow this up by looking up your specific position and getting some insight from those videos. We're also planning to host in-person sessions every fall for people to attend, and you can learn from other people in the same role as you. Hopefully you found this useful, and remember that you have a dedicated advisor in student life to help you if you need more guidance than what this video can offer. You can find us in Hub 229 or give us a call at 951-827-7344. Thanks for watching.